Welcome to the ABQ Accent, where catalysts, innovators, and risk takers share what their accent is on their work. Like a spoken accent, we all have an inflection or emphasis on where we put our energy. Join us to learn how these folks are putting their accents to work, building their vision of the future, and how you can get involved. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Mariah Harrison with the ABQ Accent Podcast. I'm here with Jake and Savannah, and we've got some really great things to talk about today. I will just tell you that Jake and Savannah didn't know me until I wanted to let them know that I wanted to know them. I did a little bit of outreach to both of you, and I just appreciate that you are the kind of people that I sort of sensed you were, that are welcoming and warm and want to meet new people too. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah. So Jake and Savannah, I will tell you that I recognized them immediately when I heard Savannah's voice and saw Jake screaming, and just sort of at the United Games, you not only are just recognizable, but you've made an intentional effort to be a part of the community there. So Jake, I believe you were the first president of the Curse community group.
I was one of them, but I wasn't the first. But
Okay.
I ran for a board position after I started to see the impact of the supporters who were doing more than just going to the games, that they were joining forces to push forth good projects in the community. And I got really energized by that and started showing up, and then ran for a board position on community outreach. And that's, I think, the first time I met you, probably 4 years ago. Briefly.
Right.
Yeah. And from there, I got more involved because I loved what this group of people were doing and all the different things that we were able to touch. And especially when the pandemic landed and we had a whole bunch of different designs for projects that year, and it shifted. And I loved the way that we were able to respond and do some different things that weren't planned.
Yeah, I love that too. The response was really big. The presence was still there even during the pandemic. And when the team was away for that one season, it was like there was no gap.
No gap at all. Yeah.
Right.
And I loved this team so much when they first came that I started working for them in 2019. And so was working through the pandemic with them until I finished law school. So, yep, we were there. We were there through the fun times.
It's integrated. And we'll get into that a little bit too, because I think that, just because it was the first way that I came to know you is one piece. But again, with the intentionality, it's something that you both enjoy and therefore put effort into and want other people to do. So let's see. Jake was born and raised in New Mexico, and he's a passionate community volunteer and activist, largely through the vehicle of soccer and supporter groups, as we're saying. He's a woodworker, a writer, a motorcycle enthusiast, and is currently building more purpose and impact into his professional life. Right? I think that's a learned thing, to build that type of thing into your life.
It is. And I haven't always had that at work. I've had, Savannah and I sometimes call them default jobs. And so I've had to look outside of my work to find things that are meaningful. But I've just been given notice that I'm getting laid off this week, which is great news, because now I can actually sort of be really intentional about finding something that allows me to have fulfillment at work. So I'm working on that too. And I'm really excited about it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good. Congratulations are in order.
Congratulations, Jake.
Thank you very much.
You're getting laid off to do this.
Thank you.
Yep. And Savannah, similarly with the intention and purpose with your work. Savannah is an artist, an entrepreneur, and attorney who helps others achieve their goals in socially and environmentally conscious ways. She and Jake are two founders of Galactic Ambassadors, a community organization promoting sustainability, equity, inclusion, and innovation through soccer or football.
See.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Savannah. So we've got perspective on some of your the way that you approach things, which is very simple: intentionality and purpose. So let's talk a little bit more about that as we go. What I think maybe we want some more framework or some background on is, where are you from? How did it bring you to this work? You did mention that you're a lawyer. Jake, you're in between things right now, but you're still super active. So Savannah, tell me a little bit more about your background before you met Jake.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in our neighboring state of Texas. I don't tell a lot of people that, but I was born in the Panhandle with horses and a lot of dogs, and I was raised around a lot of oil wells as well. And so for me, at one point my soccer team was sponsored by an oil company or, extractive industries, generally speaking. And so for me, I had always sort of had this passion of like, get people outside, get people connected to their natural environment so that we care about what we're taking from it and what we're giving back. So I've always been an outdoorsy kid. My undergrad is an interdisciplinary studies degree in outdoor adventure leadership and journalism, which is kind of interesting for a corporate attorney.
Yeah, maybe you should have gone to National Geographic.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe when I retire, or start typing, but that does sort of tie into my other hobbies as well of creating art sort of based in nature, found and recycled and upcycled art, and then as well as my writing. So, and in the work that we get to do together, and sort of promoting climate equity, economic equity, things like that in our community here.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
Jake, sort of the same question goes. We know that you're in New Mexico, but I know you spent a lot of time in California, back and forth a little bit. Where are you at? I'm
born in Santa Fe and grew up Santa Fe, Grants, and Albuquerque before I kind of made my way west and had spent a lot of time in Long Beach, California. Met a lot of New Mexicans out there, which was really cool. But lost my dad and felt like I was away for too long and came back to New Mexico. But one of the things that I discovered in California was I had worked a unique work shift and I had a lot of time off, and I found really great volunteer opportunities out there. And one in particular, when I left that opportunity, it was 6 or 7 years for a great organization that's still going called School on Wheels in California, throughout Southern California. It's a group of volunteers who go to hotels, go to shelters, and tutor children who are missing gaps in their education because they move around so much. And so I got to work with a ton of really wonderful kids at a domestic violence shelter in Long Beach for years. And when I moved back, I was missing that. And so I was looking for something to fill that gaping hole and kind of found it through these really open-hearted people who were, forming a supporters group in here in Albuquerque. Yeah.
That's a really intense type of volunteer work and work in general. So I can see how, it's you coming back and you can see that there was a gap there because you don't have that intensity without maybe creating it or looking for it. But still, the intensity isn't the important part. The important part is your impact that you had on those people and that the long-term relationships it sounds like you built.
Absolutely. And I still hear from some of the children and some of the mothers of the children who are giving me updates on the kids and where they are. And that's obviously like hugely fulfilling when you get that to know, that moments you spent had even the smallest impact. So I'm grateful to have met so many other like-minded people here in Albuquerque and throughout New Mexico who are looking to do something here to affect positive change.
Mm-hmm. So many.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot of what I want to lift up today is the work that you guys do together and individually. So then the story arc sort of turns into Jake and Savannah discovering each other and building a life together. I think it's really incredible what I've witnessed, if you will, that you celebrate each other's gifts and that you are supporting one another's growth. And that is indeed a partnership. That's beautiful. So let's talk a little bit more about what you do together. We've got the Galactic, I'm going to get it wrong, I'm going to get it right. Galactic Ambassadors, which, as you say, is meant to be a 100-year club, and it's for a greater galaxy. Talk a little bit about how that came to be. You transitioned out of one group and went to another group. I think that you were building something that really was meant for just more aligned with your values and your time and the community you wanted to build.
Yeah, well, we co-founded the group with our friends RJ Montoya and Susie Montoya, and they were also board members of the Curse, a group that we're still very close with and work with. And we were looking to do just something a little bit more focused on action and community rather than the Curse is a very well-rounded group, but we're not so much with smoke bombs, and we let them handle that because they're experts. And so we're kind of the rabble rousers about things that are important to us socially. And so that's where we focus our energies.
And one quick thing is it's RJ Montano and Susie Montano, and they're two children as well. We can't forget they're two small kids because that's who we're building this group for. Really is for the children and for the club, if our soccer team, New Mexico United, is around for 100 years, we want the supporter group to also be beside it. And we want those choices to align with the generation that's going to be around in 100 years. And so the line of being ambassadors for a greater galaxy is, we're on the top deck. We're at 201, and we usually hang banners with thoughts and art. And I always thought it would be kind of funny because if aliens came down, we'd be the first people they would interact with. So let's be good stewards of the place where we are. Let's take care of our planet because this is our home. So
last season I had season tickets below you guys, so I got to see all the different banners that were coming through, and I loved it. And I mean, it was everything from like a replica of the Ted Lasso Believe to things that are political, things that are happening right now. Like maybe even if something happened in the next couple of weeks before our next home game, your banner will reflect your thoughts and encourage people to take action. Right.
Yes, that's a fair assessment. Even if it happens, within a few minutes of a game, we'll figure out a way to say something if we need. But what we also really appreciate about the team is that they're responsive to us, and they respect that we're another set of eyes from the community perspective, and they are typically very open to having honest conversations about what it means to the people of New Mexico for certain behaviors to, be played out, and they listen, and we really appreciate that because we know not every supporters group in the U.S. or in the nation have that conversation. So we're thankful.
Absolutely. Yeah. The fact that we can have an open dialogue with them and they're very receptive to that is something we're really grateful for. They may not agree with us all the time, but they always listen to us.
They make themselves accessible. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. That's something also unique to Albuquerque and New Mexico, that so many, even of our elected officials, somehow are more accessible than in other states. And so with New Mexico United, if you see somebody on the field or if you see them downtown, they'll probably be really happy to talk to you. And so it's the same thing with your leadership. I'm glad that you have that reach. I'm glad that you take advantage of that reach. Thank you. As a supporter and also a fan.
Yeah.
Well, we're sorry you have to sit directly below us and hear us for 90 minutes.
Okay. No, actually, that was the season before. And then the next one, we were sitting kitty corner sort of behind you. And right now we've moved to a corner. What are we into? 22 or something like that. So we're closer to the field.
Further away from us every season. I got you.
Yeah, there's a pattern here.
I'll shout louder. Don't worry.
I see you. Maybe I'll wave a particular flag and be like, Savannah, I hear you. I'm with you. I wouldn't mind that. So I just, again, so much gratitude as a fan, but also a community member that there are the group of you and the youth taking advantage of not just your seats and your voice, but the community at large to sort of move a little bit about encouraging them to think a little bit harder and maybe do something a little bit extra to take care of not just their community, but their galaxy. Yeah.
And the best part is that there is a space for that in soccer. Soccer has always been an activist energy, it has always had that around it. And I think, when you remember that soccer and football is a people's sport, it's for the people. Like, you're going to hear our voices in it. And we're only when we were hanging some of our most powerful banners, perhaps we were only a group of about 4. And then, people were coming out of the woodwork, whether from tailgates or just online. And we were a voice for those folks as well. So we're happy to be a voice for the voiceless at times or just the underrepresented.
Yeah. And our little, our numbers have grown and we have a lot more people that come out to meetings and they help us plan for projects that we want to do in the upcoming season and for organizations that we want to uphold. So we've got some cool things that we're working on.
Let's look into that a little bit more before we switch topics, because I think, you don't necessarily even have to be a member of the ambassadors to partake either at the games or in your events. What is it specifically that you're planning for service or community events outside of games?
Go ahead.
So just on the note of membership, really, it's all about value alignment. We're doing less harm, doing more good as much as we can, and learning from what we know and as we learn it. And for events this year, what we're really thinking about is sort of events focused in the community, whether that means assisting on a laundry project, very similar to what the Curse did a few years ago. And then also working hopefully with some local immigration organizations or legal support organizations to really help people get the resources and the help they need to be active members of this community. And so where they feel like they have the support of this community as well. So do you want to add any context to those?
Well, the laundry project is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite projects that we did when I was a member of the Curse, and we made some merchandise and we sold it. And all the proceeds we went to a laundromat downtown, armed with snacks, soap, fabric softener, and a ton of quarters. And we just paid for everybody's laundry that day. And families who were showing up expecting to pay 40, 50 bucks were kind of shocked, and they were, what's the catch? And we're like, no, we're just helping you out. And so for the day, we just paid for everybody's laundry, and it was really beautiful. We had a lot of volunteers come out. We had players come out, and it was just a really cool thing. And so we want to do that again. So we're working on that. And since we're a group with no membership fees, we're donating items and having items signed by the team. They've been really gracious that we're going to use to auction off and raise more money. So, yeah.
Excellent. So how do people find out what's going on?
I suppose they can follow us, find us online. We're at all of the normal places, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And
at Galactic_AMB.
Yeah.
So that's us, the Galactic Ambassadors.
We'll tag you. We'll be sure, because I'd love to, if you need extra volunteers or manpower, we can back you up too.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
So there are other things in the world besides football, believe it or not. So what I would love for you to maybe share is, what are your latest passion projects? What are you spending some time on together? In addition to the ambassadors together.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So as Jake was sort of mentioning his volunteer work before we met, around, people involved with DV and coming out of it and emerging. And so I actually was raised in a rather tumultuous household involving DV and just trauma. And so a work that has always been in my heart is writing that memoir. And we're finally past the first draft. We're past the first 60,000 words. And
that's a milestone.
Yeah, it's huge. So I'm really thankful. But he is also my writing partner in that way. He's editing it right now. So, and then Jake also is working on a project.
Yeah, we both have to have some kind of artistic outlet at all points. And sometimes that leads to interesting date nights where we're throwing tarps on the floor and there's wood chips everywhere and we're carving. We're that kind of people and that kind of couple, which works really great. But while you said football is not everything, it consumes a lot of my life for some reason. And so I'm writing a book about the history of New Mexico United by uniform number. And it's inspired by a good friend of mine in New York who wrote a book called Mets by the Numbers, and he licensed it out to Cubs and Red Sox, and he gave me the blessing to do a New Mexico United version. Awesome. So I'm a couple hundred pages into that, and it's been really fun to interview the players and talk about the inspirations behind their uniform numbers. It's been really cool to see the stories behind those. I've been having a lot of fun.
I'm excited. I mean, even if I didn't know the team, I think that's a really great intro to the team and like the history of it, but also the individuals that are making decisions about their own sort of experience as a player. Yeah, and it's funny, the numbers that cling in your brain and become your like ATM pin numbers and your, the codes in your Wi-Fi. And for these players, it's the same. They have numbers that are important to them, and so it's really special to hear those stories from them. That's cool. Yeah, I look forward to sharing it. So we're authors, which are powerful. And let me go back just for a second. The memoir that you're writing, I feel like this is a lot of your individual personal experience on walking through the world with that history, but also what is the bigger outlook of the book? Absolutely. Thanks for the question. For me, it's about the beauty of my family. I wouldn't trade them for anything. And I wouldn't trade how I was raised because I got exceptional parents for all their flaws and features. But it's also just helping young children, I believe, who have experienced trauma remember that there is a place for them in this world. They have a purpose. They can, get through anything. And even if their parents aren't the best role models, we get to live our own life and create our story as well. And so hang on, keep going, keep fighting. Your place is there. You just maybe weren't born into it right away, and that's okay. So say that again. Hang on. Your place is there. You maybe just weren't born into it. Correct. Yeah. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. Of course. Were you going to add something else when Jake was finished talking about his book? Oh, just that it's much easier to edit his book and much more exciting.
Yeah, it's, the tears come out from that. Although there might be tears depending on how you react to the Kevon Frater goal in the Open Cup. I don't know.
Or retirements of any of your favorite players.
I will, admit to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the co-editing and co-writing is really a testament to, like I said earlier, the partnership and that you're really supporting each other's growth and goals and and one other thing that you're doing together, I think it's called, the Mother Road Makers. This is something that I may have inadvertently found on Instagram and wanted to follow anyway. So I think this is like one of your many outlets, creativity, and it's not necessarily meant to be sold everywhere. It's just sort of like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're up to. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I'll start on that one as well. So Mother Road Makers was, our just creative outlet during COVID. Kind of started at that point, but frankly, I'm a maker with glass, paint, ink, watercolors, all the things. And then we started jointly, shout out to Dovetail Community Workshop over off Jefferson. They're an amazing group, and they got us into making cutting boards together and chessboards. And slowly Jake kind of took that into bowl making as well, and really getting into the craft. And so together we just create a lot. And yep, there might only be one of one, but we're having a good time. And yes, one day we will sell things maybe. So
yeah, but it's a good place for us to just document our creations and make things together and just kind of have a record of that and watch as it progresses. And hopefully we have to rein ourselves in from having too many hobbies. So I don't know how successful we are at that. We're pretty bad at that, but we try anyway.
We have not picked up pickleball, so we have that going for us.
Yeah.
Well, it might not be too late to do that. I love that, like I said, you're complementing sort of each other's strengths, but also maybe supporting each other through one another's challenges. And so the larger sort of reason why I wanted you guys to talk is sort of setting a really beautiful example for what a partnership could look like, especially here in Albuquerque, where there's so many ways that you can get involved in the community. That it's okay that you're doing so many things and want to do so many things, and that you're going through the motions of enjoying experiencing a number of different things and putting your hands in different things, whether it's like those various date nights or at the computer or out at the game. But I also, before we wrap up, there's a couple of other things, especially Savannah, your work in creating this co-op with your legal work, I think is really powerful. I'd love for more people to know about it. And even if you're not necessarily ready for folks to dive in to support the work, I think that there are clients that you could find by sharing your work.
Absolutely.
I don't mean clients by like, hey, let's get Savannah some work. The people who really need it need to find you.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. So I'm a business development consultant who offers strategic consulting services to purpose-driven entrepreneurs and organizations. And the reason I do that is because I think too many people think the only way you can truly succeed, and I'm going to say a bad word, it's money. Like people really, we need money to survive in this world. And so I think a lot of times people think that eagerness to succeed in that world is selfish or something. And no, capitalism requires that someone is getting exploited. And if you are sick of that, we have to step out and start building a new framework. And so I help people start building that for themselves. As Jake mentioned, we call our regular jobs our default jobs because that's just, holds us down. That gives us the stability. And we can be humans on top of that. I'm not just an attorney. He's not just a computer engineer. We're a lot of other things, as you've been able to demonstrate here. So, yeah.
And the co-op itself what's the structure of that?
Oh, yes. Okay. So Spring Dive Collective is actually headquartered in Austin, but it will be a nationwide resource. And it's really focused on helping small businesses overcome that 90% failure rate in the first year, which is an incredible statistic when you think about it, just that, how many supports it takes for a small business to survive after that first year. So we're bringing together strategic operations, finance, and legal professionals to offer kind of low-cost, accessible materials that are helping to improve sustainability, equity throughout the workplace. So,
incredible.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
So even though it's headquartered there, it's still accessible through you, through New Mexico. Just about anybody can reach out.
Absolutely. And my work, my office is still headquartered here in Albuquerque as Ziki's. So, yeah, can't get rid of me that easy, Albuquerque.
And we don't want to. Again, that's called Seekies. And we can tag all this stuff.
Oh, cool.
Too. Yeah. What is it about being in Albuquerque that you love?
Well, for me, it's home. But I think the greater thing is that I was able to find a group of people who are like-minded and will give up their evenings and give up their weekends to do things to make our city and our state and our smaller communities better and help other people. And it's been a group of family of people that I didn't know I would ever find and have in my lives, and I can't imagine my lives without them now.
Do you mean like extended chosen family?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I never would have guessed I would have come from a sports team. But if you take that away, these people are I'm so grateful for them and for us. And we help get each other through like the heaviest times of the pandemic. And now we've been in each other's weddings and all this stuff. It's just really something I'm incredibly grateful for.
Yeah.
And for me, as far as New Mexico, it is also home, despite being born across the border. For me, Albuquerque and New Mexico, it is the potential, the possibility. And while I know that there's sometimes when our community can feel resistant to good and positive change, I think all that our community needs really is that conversation, that understanding from where that resistance is coming from, because that's our nature, to resist, to survive. So of course we're going to fight back a little bit, but as long as we can open it up and have a true and honest conversation, that growth, that potential can really be understood and expanded on. And I don't know, I just think that once you sort of open your hand like that and open up that conversation, you can find some really beautiful things and beautiful opportunities right here at home.
Yeah, I really love that both of you are not only looking for, but seeking to create spaces for these conversations. And not just for your inner circles, but for people that might need to find them as well. It's really beautiful. And so if there's any last minute sort of encouragement you want to give, if there's something you want people to participate in more, or any sort of action that you want to have our listeners look into, please share.
Well, I'd say Galactic Ambassadors is supporters culture can be very exhausting because it is all volunteer work and you do it all on the time when you're not at your job or with your family. So we're intentional about only giving what you can when you can. And so we'd encourage anybody that's curious to go visit our socials and reach out if they want to know more, or come hang out and help us plan and ideate about things that we want to accomplish. Yeah.
And my advice is entirely different. It is, I think I look at the pandemic as a really refining moment in us being able to balance our pace of life and how we want to work, be curious, explore, and do all these different things. And I want people to hold on to that and remember that, our endless days are numbered, and let's make something beautiful out while we can, and make sure that we're not just giving everything we can to the title we possess, but also to the human that we want to be. So.
You get to live with her. You get to hang out with us all the time.
Yeah. He called me his wife coach the other day, and that was very funny.
Jake Gutierrez and Savannah Hoover, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate having your two accents on the podcast today.
And thank you for yours and everything you do here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mariah.
You got it. Also, as a thank you, I wanted to say appreciation for the Bloomstone for offering us this orchid and amethyst today. Adds a little extra energy. And thanks to everybody else who joined us today. We hope you come back for another ABQ accent.